Heard a lot about this one, most of it not that good. I usually just play the single player campaigns for shooters like Call of Duty or Battlefield, so I rate it based on that, and Battlefield 1 had a pretty nice campaign, especially after Battlefield 3 and 4. I was positively surprised by that one. And yeah, Battlefield 5 had a pretty odd, kind of bad trailer, but it could still be fun. I mean, Battlefield 1 was also not super realistic, but it was fun and enjoyable. So how was Battlefield 5? Well, it starts with a prologue that lets you dip into every kind of fighter that you can play in Battlefield, from foot soldiers to snipers to tank crews and planes. Then the war stories follow, starting with an SBS rookie soldier who is paired with Craig Fairbrass, who is in a little movie franchise called Rise of the Foot Soldier, in which he uses the C word a lot, and he uses it here as well. Only once, but I like to think that this is a nod to his role of Pat Tate in Rise of the Foot Soldier. In this pair's first mission, you play a character that messes up a lot, but eventually proves his worth, and the two grow on each other. It's okay, but not great. Same goes for the next war story, which brings us to Norway, and we sabotage a facility that is producing heavy water for the creation of a nuclear bomb. And we do that together with our mom, and have some skis with us. They mix up things here, but it's also just okay. I also wasn't a fan of the whole alarm feature, which is more annoying than anything else in my opinion. It's like attacking a base in Far Cry over and over again, but you can come just from one side. You are also usually on your own, which makes the whole thing more tedious and repetitive. The next story, Tiraleur, is pretty good though. Maybe my favorite. We follow a group of Senegalese soldiers in the French army towards the end of the war, and they are experiencing prejudice and racism by their own people and the enemy. But in an ambush we seek the initiative and fight off the enemy. But as we are playing a young soldier, he gets ambitious and wants to push forward, even though his officer is against it. Against all odds we push further though, and see ourselves surrounded by the enemy. We decide to go further and further though and surprise the enemy by not just waiting and defending, but taking the initiative. It's a nice story about a part of the war that is not that famous or well known, I would say, and it should get more attention. It was also this glimpse into this part of history which made me look up more about the backgrounds, and which I really appreciated. It also feels the most like something I would expect from a Battlefield game in terms of gameplay, as you fight with an army together and not on your own. You are holding positions and fight off the enemy or destroy certain strategic points. The story and presentation was also really good, and you get some fun weapons to play with and can call for reinforcements later on in the story. There's also not that much of an emphasis on stealth, which was nice. The last war story seems odd at first. You play the crew of a tiger closer to the end of the war. The idealistic Müller is getting a new recruit called Schröder and is trying to fight off the onslaught of Americans that attack and try to push further into Germany. As the story progresses, Müller and his crew get more and more disillusioned, except for Schröder, who keeps staying fanatical and still believes in the twisted ideology of the Nazis. It's a nice change in gameplay, of course. Of course you also get out of the tank at times, but wreaking havoc with a tiger is always fun, and having a good story that actually reflects on the deeds that you are doing and shows characters change over time and grow is pretty cool. It's just unfortunate that the last two stories are rather short. I wouldn't have minded a longer campaign with these characters that really fleshed out their stories. But it's fine as it is. The whole game is okay, but I would say it's not as good as Battlefield 1. Is it as bad as some people say? No, especially those guys who only saw the trailer and haven't played the game and say it's already bad. Sure, I can only judge the single player myself, but still, I have to say it was okay. It was fine, and I had fun with it. There was also no scene like you could see in the trailer, with some amputee running around and still shooting with her amputee arm, which was way too over the top. Overall, I didn't like the alarm system, as I said, and the modern attachments to the guns are also a bit cringe, but it plays overall decent. It plays like a modern shooter. Of course, I would have preferred something that is more authentic, like the Brothers in Arms games were, but this was fine. I had only a few minor bugs, some clipping here and there, the most annoying thing being machine gunners, which are seemingly bulletproof when you try to shoot them from a certain angle, which is dumb. But there are also some very nice moments in the campaign and some action-packed missions. I would have preferred something that is more in line with the two later war stories, but overall it is an okay game, especially as you can pick it up for pretty cheap nowadays. And Battlefield V gets a 7 out of 10.